the Mosai deliver our forefather by the hand of who? Masha, which is Moses. Right? You read, you count, if you do the computation, when you do the math, the basic math, you add it up together, because remember, that prophecy starts with Abraham. So journeying in a strange land, in a different land, keep in mind, right? It starts with who? Abraham. Then from Abraham to who? Isaac. From Isaac to Jacob. And then from Jacob, move to where? To Egypt, to the land known as well Egypt today. Originally, the Mosai called it Misraim, the upper and the lower. Misraim, which is the land of the Hamite, the children of Ham. Keep in mind, Ham, he got 4 children, right? Right? So keep in mind. So Abraham, at some point, he went and sojourned in Egypt as well. At some point, because of the famine, the Mosai moved the spirit upon who? Isaac, and he went and sojourned where? In Egypt. So then after that, our forefather, they sojourned where again? In Babylon. They were slaves in Babylon. The ancient Babylon, our forefather were in captivity over there. 2 times they went to captivity over there. Before that, the northern kingdom was taken slave into war, into Assyria. And from Assyria, the Mosai brought them into a land where no man ever lived. When you go in the book of 2nd Ezra, in your Apocrypha, you can read about it. 2nd Ezra chapter 13, you can read about it. You start reading from verse 34 all the way down. 34 through 38, 41, decent. You read. Those are the ones that were scattered. They were already scattered. So, you got that. After that, you got to meet Persian. You got a Babylonian. After the Babylonian, you got to meet Persian. Right? I'm giving you the chronology, right? You got to keep in mind. So many others. The Philistine came against her. They, like I said, the Assyrian. After the Assyrian, who do you have to take over us? You have who? The Babylonian. The Mosai sent the Babylonian for rebelling, for sinning. They didn't just come because they came on their own. No, the Mosai sent them against us because we were doing evil. We will not keep the commandment of the Mosai. We will not keep the commandment of the Mosai, and that was the main issue. And we still doing the same thing till this very last day. And then from there, guess what? After the Babylonian, guess what? The Mosai set up another powerful, mighty kingdom. Who? The Mede-Persian. The Mede-Persian. That ruled the whole earth. Under who? You see our forefather who? Mardochai, right? Esther, right? Daniel, Esdras, right? And the list goes, Nehemiah. And the list goes on and on and on. Then when you leave that captivity, when you leave the Mede-Persian, the Mosai set up again another mighty empire, kingdom. Who? The Greeks, right? Then, after the Greek, the Mosai set up who? The last kingdom, the last empire, the last nation to rule the earth, still which is ruling till today. They're the one that rule the whole world. They're the one that run the United Nations, right? The 4th beast. As is mentioned in the book of Daniel, Esau-Edom. Esau-Edom is the 4th beast. Esau-Edom, that's where they run everything. It doesn't matter. They rule everything throughout the 4 corners this earth. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. That's the 4th beast. And the world is going to be destroyed under them. Right? When we say destroy, you got to keep in mind, right? The Mosai will destroy most of the kingdom. And he will leave some, right, for the day of war, the valley of Jehoshaphat. You got to keep in mind. So the 4th empire, the 4th kingdom, mighty than all the kingdom. He got all the characteristic of all the kingdom that preside him, that were before him, prior to him. He got all those weaknesses within him, which is what Esau-Edom. And when we start going to this detail, it will make sense to you. Everything Esau does today, or Esau-Edom, the Edomite, right, they do today, keep in mind. They got it from war, from Nimrod, the Cushite, the so-called Ethiopian, right? Nimrod was a mighty hunter. He was a mighty hunter before the Mosai Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. The Mosai gave him, the Mosai showed his might within him. The Mosai allowed him to be in power and authority. And he started bumping his chest. He started thinking like the same spirit Esau got today. Esau-Edom, you can understand. All right? All right? So, then you got the Edomite that took over. They're the one that destroyed fully Jerusalem and took over Jerusalem. Who? The Edomite, along with the Ishmaelite. The Ishmaelite are those that you call today the Arabs, all right? The Saudi, right? The Qatari, all right? Some of them are in Jordan, some of them in Syria, some of them are in, it's all a mixed multitude, right? So That's the whole thing. So at different time, we the one that were taking slave throughout the four corner of this earth, the so-called blacks, Latino, that does not happen to no other nation. We're the only one. So from there, so the Most High say, and he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs. Right? And shall serve them. And shall serve them. You see that? We serve them. Who are we serving today? Who is serving today in Europe, in Africa, right? In America, in the Caribbean, right? In Asia, in the Middle East. Who are we serving? We serving who? Esau Edom mainly. We serving mainly Esau Edom. Esau Edom, Idumea, Bozrah, Teman. And the list goes on, the Chaldean, man. This is the one we serving today. You got to understand. You got to be in the spirit to understand what we're talking about. You got to be spiritual, right? You got to be born again to understand this thing. You can't be running in the Christian church or in Islam and understand this thing. You cannot. You got to put those things away. You got to put them away. You got to bury them. And you got to be born again. You got to be new. You got to humble your spirit. So then the Most High will give you understanding. And it comes slowly. It does not come right away. You got to work on it. And you're going to pray. You're going to pray for people. You're going to do things, right? You're going to do righteousness, right? You're going to apply the law. You got to make sure you keep in the Shabbat. Things. Then the Most High give you understanding. You follow me? Then the Most High give you understanding. So we got to keep that in mind, right? So he said, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now, are people being afflicted in Babylon the Great? This is Babylon the Great. This is Babylon the Great. America is Babylon the Great, whether you believe it or not. Bible prophecy. Now, for you to fully understand, don't just run and say it's the Roman Catholic Church. No, it's not the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church is a facet, is a part. It's just a little portion of the Edomite Empire. They're member of the Babylonian kingdom because they promote, they push for the Babylonian kingdom. However, the mighty kingdom on earth today is America, is the United Snake of America. Is not Rome. Italy ain't got no power. The Vatican ain't got no power unless on the Christian or on the Catholics. But when you take a look at America, the United States of America has power over all the country. They can do whatever they want to any country at any time. Ain't nobody saying anything. Ain't nobody saying anything. Right? Go back in the history and take a look. Anytime they decide to go attack a country or to go invade a country, take over a land that don't belong to them, guess what? Have you seen any country go against them? Not even Russia. Russia cannot even put sanction on the USA. They can't do it. They cannot, because this is Babylon. You can understand. Russia is the mighty kingdom, is a mighty country of the Edomites, still mixed with who? With the children of Japheth, and the list goes on and on. But guess what? They cannot even put sanction on the US. There is no country on earth that can put sanction against the US. There is not. And if they do, it does not work. Now, when the USA puts sanction on the country, it works. When the USA puts sanction on Italy, they don't felt it. If they put sanction on Venezuela, Venezuela get crushed. Understand? That's how we know. If Italy puts sanction on any country, the country that don't feel it is Italy, right? Unless it's maybe the whole European Union, right? Along with the US, things like that. That's a different story. But Italy by itself putting a sanction, France by itself putting a sanction on Senegal or Mali, things like that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You got to keep that in mind. Right? So Babylon the Great is the United States of America, including Canada. That's Babylon the Great. Babylon the Great, the land of the Chaldean, man. The land of the astrologer, the witches, the whoremonger. Right? The land of weakness. Right? The house of every unclean birds, every foul spirit. And for you to understand that this is Babylon the Great, you got to go in the book of war. Daniel chapter 2. Then you jump from Daniel chapter 2 and you go to Daniel chapter 7. Then from Daniel chapter 7, you link it up with the book of Revelation chapter 11. Right? 11. Then from 11, Revelation 11, you link it up with Revelation 12, Revelation 13, Revelation 14, Revelation 15, Revelation 16, Revelation 17, Revelation 18, and you go link it up with 2nd Esdras. You got to go link it up with who? Obadiah. You got to go link it up with what? Malachi. You got to go link it up with what? Isaiah. You got to go link it up with Jeremiah. That's how you get understanding. That's how the Holy Spirit moves you. That's how you gain understanding. It's not about you just read one verses here and then you try. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay? The word of the Most High does not. It's a precept upon precept, line upon line. Here a little, there a little. You got to dive in. You got to do things. You got to bring it up, put it together. It's a puzzle. Right? It's a puzzle. You got to put them together, all the pieces, and then you see the full picture. Right? So today, America, the United States of America, is oppressing the Israelites. Right? Whether you believe it or not. They're the one oppressing us. They're the one oppressing the so-called blacks, the so-called African American, the so-called Latino. They're the one that say we don't have paper. Even though our forefathers were already living on this land before they came. Our forefathers were already living on this land before Esau, Edom, they came over here. Right? Fact. When you go in the history book, you can read it. All this is written in the history book. Salakia. All this is written in the history book. Now, if you don't study, or you ain't keeping the command, you can't believe this thing. You're gonna just wash it away. Because you don't believe. You don't believe in the Most High, you don't believe in his word. Now when you believe in the Most High, you believe in his word, you'll see. You'll see the Holy Spirit moving in you. You see the Holy Spirit working in you. You start changing. You start making change in your life. Right? You make changes in your life. Right? You make changes in your life. Alright? So like here. So that's what you gotta keep in mind. Right? You got to keep that in mind. All right? You got to keep that in mind. You got to keep that in mind. That's very important. That everybody will know and stay in the spirit. All right? Just making sure that this camcorder was plugged in. All right? Like I say, I don't have any viewer right now on Instagram. Lord willing, the most I move the spirit, I'll be able to set it up, make it better. So let's go back and say, and then shall afflict them 400 years. Right? Afflict them 400 years. Now, basic math, if you don't know it, when did the transatlantic slavery start? When did it start? We go basics. It was from the 1500. Later it's the 1600. Let's even put it in the 1600, right? It's a 400 years, right? 400 years, right? So the Most High is speaking similitude, right? So keep in mind, similitude. Similitude, it could say 400 years, and it could be maybe 100, it could be 300 years, it could be 40 years, right? Similitude, 400 years, for example, our forefathers, they were in Babylon for more than 40 years, around 40 years or a little bit more than that, right? Similitude, because when you take 440 is what? You multiply that by what? 100, you get what? 40, right? Or 4 times 100, you get 400, right? 4 times 100, or you take 40 times 10, guess what you get? You get 400. So you got to remember, the Most High speak with similitude, right? Things you might think, it doesn't mean to be exactly as he's saying. Because, for example, the Bible tell you that 1,000 years for us, 1,000 years for a man is 1 day before the Most High. 1,000 years for man is 1 day before the Most High. That's why his name is what? The Ancient of Days. That's the name of the Most High. He got so many mighty names. Powerful name. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Hallelujah. Blessing, glory, power be unto our Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Amen. Hallelujah. Right? So, at various time, let me go right here. He said, shall afflict them, right? Let's go right here. Let's go right here. Let's go right here. And, I'll bring it out later on. Let's go in Deuteronomy 28. That's the main thing, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28, 64. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. Salakia, Deuteronomy 28 and 64. Let's read it. And it reads, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. What does it mean to scatter? We will be spread. We will be taken as a slave. Scatter. Whether you're traveling through your visa, your plane, guess what? You're traveling as a slave. You just don't understand it. Our forefathers were piled up in a boat back in those days. Right? In the 1400, in the 1500, and in the 1600. Right? From where? From America. Because keep in mind, when you go in the book of the Holocaust of America, right? The conquest of the New World, you go take a look at the history, right? Before the Edomite, known today as the European, right? The Edomite, those that call themselves today European, they call themselves American, they call themselves French, German. Before they came over here, keep in mind, our forefathers, the Northern Kingdom, were already living here. Okay? Northern Kingdom were not in Africa. They were just a remnant that were living probably in Africa. We know for sure. However, the bulk, the multitude, The bulk of them, because the Most High does not remove everybody. There was a bulk that were taken and brought into Assyria as a slave because they were into idolatry. They were worshiping idols. They were worshiping Satan. They were doing all type of nonsense and weakness. So the Most High had to remove them, right, through the hand of our enemy. So when they came to this land, guess what? From the 1492, when the demon came over here, when this devil came over here, right? You know what they do? Did you know what they do? They don't teach you that in your school, right? So they took some of our forefathers as a slave from here, from America, from the New World, and brought them as a slave in Europe. That happened. You can look it up. You don't have to believe what I'm telling you, right? Go on Google and look at how many slaves, how many Native Indian slaves did Christopher Columbus took from America to Europe. Look it up and you're going to find. They took a lot of the Native Indians as slaves. From where? From America to Europe. Now, on the voyage, on the travel, guess what? A lot of them died. A good amount survived, but a lot of them died too because of the condition.